To another video, and today I'm going to be doing a part 2. Yes, I know I said the video would be tomorrow, but you have to understand, I am a very, very lazy human being. So without further ado, let's get into this. So first, let's rank this guy right here, Eisenhower. Now, again, all these presidents are the war criminal presidents. These are all presidents who committed war crimes, except for Jimmy Carter. But here we go. So now, first things first, Eisenhower, his issue was that I'll put him in C for right now, but we'll get to his ranking. Eisenhower was very, very influential in the Cold War. He sent spies over, but however, that's still a war crime. That's one of the war crimes, I believe, was espionage of another nation, which is actually against the law. Maybe it's just under U.S. jurisdiction. We don't really know what this little racist down here meant by that, but it's difficult. I think I should give Eisenhower a B because even still, he was a New Deal Republican and he still supported many liberal ideas, even if his actions during the the Cold War were not exactly the best. Though we will be moving on from him. So I'll give him a B. I think that's as good as it should get. Eisenhower was also pretty sexist, but I'll defend him on that. Pretty much everybody in the 50s was sexist, and also we're basing this off of your presidency. So, the 90% income tax sounds interesting to me. That's how I'd afford a lot of progressive ideas if I was in office. Um, so JFK. Now JFK is now JFK issue with him is Jesus Christ. I really just can't. JFK. Um, issue with JFK is the issue that is uh he is somewhat over. I'll put him in C again for right now, and then I'll continue his ranking. So the thing about JFK is a lot of people say if he hadn't been assassinated, nobody would have cared. But even still, he did do some really good. Again, he was an FDR Democrat. He was a social liberal. He was a great, sort of a great um advocate of that sort of thing. The New Frontier was obviously a great action by him. And, again, him being a social liberal and following social liberalism, which is the most progressive it gets in America, other than Bernie Sanders, who's a social democrat. A social liberal is pretty much as good as it gets. So I think I will also put him in B, because other than the New Frontier, how he handled the Cuban Missile Crisis was not the best way he could have. And there's other things. I mean, still he got the U.S. out of nuclear arms, which I will still put him in B for because he's still really good. But I think it matters that we'll give him a B. We'll give him a B. Sorry about that, guys. Uh, strangest thing that's ever happened. But I don't know why that happened. Ignore that. At least whatever. Yeah, that was an awkward thing. Just pretend that didn't happen. Um, so continuing on. LBJ. Okay, this is where it gets hard. So, Vietnam War was definitely a terrible thing. The Vietnam War definitely was a terrible thing, but again, he also helped out with the Greater Society and created Medicare and Medicaid. Now, would I say he's as good as FDR when it comes in terms of social programs? He was also a social liberal. He was just like FDR, who was also a social liberal. They were both social liberals. A lot of people from the eras of FDR to around his time were all social liberals. So the Vietnam War is a hard thing because it's such a terrible war. At the same time, you know, what he goes down is, I think a C is good for him. I think where he is right now is actually good for him. I think I'll keep him in a C because, it's just too hard to judge this. Social programs really help him out because Medicare and Medicaid are some of the best programs in American history. A lot of people say that it messed up and made healthcare more complicated and more expensive, but That's bullshit. Um, I can't really get into detail about it because that's not what this video is about. This video is about ranking presidents. But, you know, I'm go watch some other guy talking about how Medicare, Medicaid did not cause healthcare prices to go up. More incentive to go to private insurance did, however. Now, anyways, though, yeah, this guy's gonna get a D because this is Richard Nixon right here, just in case some of my viewers didn't know. Um, Richard Nixon gets a D for me. Some people would give him an F just because of Watergate, but the thing about Watergate is it really wasn't that terrible when you consider the fact that Richard Nixon was gonna win even if he hadn't have cheated. He just wanted more proof that he wasn't gonna lose. So I'll give him a D because other than the Watergate scandal and the war on drugs, which we'll also get into, he was a relatively good president. He oversaw the moon landing, which was an incredible feat for his time. He passed Roe v. Wade under him, which allowed abortion to, happen. Um, and just all these really good things overall. Um, then there's the war on drugs, which I really want to put him in F for. Not like a low F, but like a really high F, because but the Roe v. Wade bill was such a revolutionary thing. It's hard to say. The war on drugs was terrible. I'll give him a really low D. He's on like the verge of like getting an F, but like he's like on the D level. Like if if this was percentage grades, he'd have a 60.0% grade, like on the dot. There would be no other percentage wise. Richard Nixon did two good things and two bad things. Watergate wasn't really that bad, but the war on drugs was such a terrible thing that hurts black people in particular. African Americans are definitely hurt by this bill in particular. And for the time, the hippie movement was also affected by it. Now, the hippie movement obviously doesn't exist anymore, but this was clearly his attempt at striking at them. Now, Gerald Ford, this guy, the next guy who is on the list, he didn't really do anything, I'll be honest with you. The best I could think of is his Soviet Union policy, so he did some pretty bad things though, so I'm just gonna I'll give him like a low D. I'll put him in front. I'll put him behind. Because like he supported Roe v. Wade, which isn't bad. I don't really know anything bad he did or anything good he did, so I'm just gonna have to accept him. Next up is Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, I'm gonna give a B. Now, some people say this guy was a war criminal. Uh, First, let's put him right here, just as a placeholder for right now. Some people say this guy was a war criminal, but I'm gonna have to disagree because the general people in Iran, or I believe, supported that Iranian that Islamic fundamentalist. The majority of the people supported him. Um, he did not, and he didn't purposefully overthrow anybody. He didn't shoot anybody. There was nobody who died. He just supported an Islamic fundamentalist, who the people, the general populace, actually supported. And not to mention, if communists really want to hate this guy, let's not forget this guy supported the Sandinistas. So I'm gonna have to give him I think a high B because other than the bad things that he did, which are very far and few, other than inflation, which he caused mass inflation. The inflation parts are really really bad, but I'm not gonna judge him on that because I don't really think it's completely a president's fault when it comes to inflation. I'll give him the highest B of all, honestly. Maybe behind him, but Jimmy Carter, yeah, he also saw the invention of the Department of Education and the Department of or the EPA, sorry, which are all very, very um, important, um, to education, obviously, and the environment. We need an environmental protection agency, and we need a Department of Education in the USA. And when conservatives say we need to defund these things, they just don't seem to understand that these things are actually important. And not only that, but the Camp David Accords already is an incredible thing. He literally caused peace between Egypt and Israel. He also gave put in gave Panama the rights over the Panama Canal instead of the USA. So overall, I just want to give this guy a B because I think Jimmy Carter is an incredible president. Um, I think he's a Christian Democrat. I would have to say, he's a follower of Christian democracy overall. Now, next up, we have literal spawn of Satan right here, aka Ronald Reagan. I'm not even gonna like give him the light of day. He goes only slightly in front of William McKinley. Okay, he's a little bit better than that, but I'm still gonna give Ronald Reagan an F because for all his, Reaganomics, supply side economics, tear down this wall, all his anti-communist things, his supply side economics. We need Reaganomics in this nation. It just like in the end, Reaganomics did not help us out at all. And now we have libertarian shitbags worshiping this guy as the goddamn god of the Republican Party. He's nothing. He's the worst Republican president I've ever seen. Worse than Trump. Worse than any like all the like SJW liberals who like hate Trump. They've never heard of like Ronald Reagan before because Ronald Reagan it's just generally the worst president. Supply side economics is not the only thing. Let's not forget about the Iran Contra affair. The Iran Contra affair, in which he literally, I believe, he gave weapons. He sold weapons to the Iranians who. Jimmy Carter put that guy in power. Sure, he only helped. He didn't forcefully put him in power. But this guy literally sold them weapons, and they would not be helpful allies later on. And then he didn't even take the blame for it. Some other guy took the blame, and so I just think that relatively speaking, Ronald Reagan is not a good president. I don't think, um, I don't believe that he's good at all. I think that Ronald Reagan is probably one of the worst presidents of the century. So moving on from them, Herbert Walker Bush gets like a D. I can't. He raised taxes like a couple of times, and then there was the Desert Storm where I'll give him like a. I'll put him above Richard Nixon. And like, yeah, I'll put him above Richard Nixon. He was a very boring. Clinton gets a C. Clinton did a lot of good stuff. He supported public option healthcare, which would have been beneficial, but he didn't actually get it passed, so that's an issue. Outside of that, good things that he did. Um, it's hard to think about it. He did keep our economy, really good for the time being. The economy was in one of the best shapes it's ever been in, and this is due in part to him ending the Reaganomics thing, which was a failure when, in terms of supply side economics, Reaganomics, whatever you want to call it, was a failure when it comes to um, actually putting it in practice. The Hayek mindset just does not seem to work. Keynesian economics seem to always succeed. And that's exactly what Bill Clinton did. And, he's a social liberal. And it exactly, well, he's a third wayer. Bill Clinton's a third wayer. But, yeah, he's still nonetheless did a relatively incredible job as president. And moving on from him, we also have another spawn of Satan here, who I will put behind Franklin Pierce, honestly. Uh, at least Franklin Pierce has reasons. This motherfucker. Never mind. I'm gonna put this guy behind Ronald Reagan. I know I said Ronald Reagan. Okay, as in terms of presidents who I like versus presidents I dislike. Personally, if this was a personal thing, I just personally would like George W. Bush more than Ronald Reagan. But this is a policy thing. And when it comes to that, George W. Bush caused all the Middle Eastern wars, killed thousands of people. Just overall, you know, his like sort of neoconservative policies really, really hurt our nation today, and we're still living with aches from his presidency, and it all around, his neoconservative ideology has caused all these issues in our countries. He hated, he did not at all help with the rising gay issues in America. He did not care much for that. I imagine because he was extremely homophobic. He was, he led to so much Islamophobia that we currently are still struggling with. Um, he's the reason we have Islamophobia. He could have even stopped 9/11, according to most people. He knew that 9/11 was going to happen and then chose not to act on it, which then caused 9/11 to happen. Now, moving on from him, Barack Obama. Now, this guy's really controversial. But I'll give him a B. Why? Well, the good things are really good. Yes, Libya is a terrible thing. And what happened in Libya really, really hurts his chances of ever getting an A or an S. But the thing about Barack Hussein Obama is that even still, and I'm really saying this is hard for me to say here, Libya was a disaster. And what happened there really, really, really was terrible and devastation in 2011. But with that being said, he took out Osama bin Laden. He legalized gay marriage. He legalized pot in most states. He got the Affordable Care Act revolutionary and is taking the best steps the U.S. has towards universal health care. It's the best we currently have as a system that anybody can use. Yes, it's only an affordable program, but it's really as good as it gets. I don't genuinely think that Barack Obama wanted what happened to happen. Um, we have to accept the fact that some things are his fault. We can't just blame Libya, which I do recognize is his fault, but there are certain things that weren't his fault, such as, Guantanamo Bay that was still open. That was indeed his predecessor's fault. Um, Now, with that being said, I still think that Barack Obama is responsible. Just because the last guy was terrible doesn't mean this guy isn't responsible for anything. He's still responsible for the devastation that happened in Libya. But he's also responsible for Yemen. But he's not responsible for things like Guantanamo Bay. What happened in Yemen is truly, truly saddening. I recommend that you look at it yourself, Libya and Yemen, and what Barack Obama did there. But they were truly devastating, and they happened under his watch. Um, Now, with that being said, I still think that there is some blame on his predecessor. He got the economy in shape. He did do a lot of good things. And so overall, I'd say that he's not a terrible president. Now, moving on from him, Donald J. Trump, in my opinion, gets a high D, a very, very high D. I think the highest D out of everybody else. With all the issues in this presidency, with every single issue that he had, with Mexican immigration, with and his deportation, and with all the Islamophobia that came with his presidency, and all the alt-right rallies that happened in his name, which, in all fairness, he did not likely. I don't think Trump supported the alt-right rallies. I don't even think that Trump is racist or Islamophobic. I don't think Trump's racist or Islamophobic or anything like that. I think he has some minor xenophobia, very minor xenophobia, towards immigrants. He's not racist. I don't think. I don't think he's from a time where it was very okay to be sexist. Yes, he's made sexist remarks, but I don't think that makes him sexist as a whole. I don't think he's racist. I don't think he's Islamophobic. He's definitely not homophobic. He's literally, I think, the first president to, as soon as he started running, to support gays. So I will give him a high D because other than that, he did get the economy in shape. He did get most of the things in shape. So overall, he was good. And that's pretty much it.